It is July 1st, 2021, and welcome to Manhood Race Culture Interactive. We will be discussing tonight this three-letter curse word that white conservatives have apparently found somehow, and it is critical race theory. I thought that we would start today's program off by dealing with there are principally two primary individuals who advance this critical race theory thing, and both of them are now deceased. But I thought it would be nice if we went ahead and started off by just giving a listen to one of them, if we can get him up and going. So here is, I'm sure Vernell will smile at this. The brother faces at the bottom of the well. Derek Bell. This was the one of the original critical race theorists.
Hello and welcome.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Happy to be here.
Why is racism so indestructible?
One of the things I think is that we have mischaracterized it. We have misdiagnosed it, if you will. For years and years, we thought that racism was an aberration, a defect on the American scene, one that was a holdover from slavery, one that we had the tools to correct through law, and one that there was a desire to correct. And it's taken us a long time to recognize that that was a wrong diagnosis, that racism is an important stabilizing function, serves a stabilizing function in a society that is built on property. And in a society where a great many whites don't have any property to speak of, certainly don't have as much as those on the top, what this society has given them from the time of slavery to the present is a sense of property in their whiteness, that their skin color enables them to somehow identify and live vicariously the lives of those on the top, as also through the soap operas and the tabloids and the hopes through the lotteries, and to feel superior to blacks who, whatever their status, are deemed on the bottom.
Any initial reaction to what Brother Derek Bell just stated?
Yes. Can I go?
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
I agree with them. First time hearing that theory, but in the most recent months, maybe mid-April, I had to deal with just that, just what he said. I'll give you highlights of what the scenario is. Near where I live, there is a lake. That lake is in a subdivision. The subdivision is not private. There are public streets throughout the subdivision. So in finding this lake and it being so close to my spot, I started coming and parking next to the lake and, just checking the birds and fish, etc. These white folks went crazy to the extent they called the police. They had 5, 10 police cars out here. They wanted to ID me. They wanted to run my VIN, my tag. I had to be some type of criminal. And not all of them, just a small group. The small group that believes that their whiteness buys them a privilege to control a 10-foot spot on a public street and deny me the privilege or the right even to partake in just looking at a lake. So yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Nothing has changed. Maybe it's even gotten worse than it was when he spoke, because it's just crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, that's my opinion. And I surrender the mic.
Anyone else want to chime in real quick? Sister Vernell, I see your hand up. Go right ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, of course, he is correct. It has been that way definitely since the slave period in America. For example, in the Deep South, where you have the plantation system, history, the way they whitewash history, they'll tell you that the South was full of all of these Africans who were enslaved on plantations, and then there were slave masters and their families. But what they don't tell you is about the other white people that lived in the South, the ones that were not property owners and landowners, regular people who got to work to make a living. And so they bought into, those folks bought into this very theory that their whiteness, promoted them in such a way that it gave them some type of privilege. And so they bought into it. And that's how that upper class that owned all the property, and owned all the land and had all the money, got these really poor white folk to go along with that system, a very system that was working, to the disinterest of regular white folk. Regular white folk are struggling to make ends meet. Their families are going hungry. They can't pay their bills. These white men cannot provide. Why? Because although it's being done by the free labor of slavery. But they go along with it because they're white. So they go along with it. So they are making a decision that is against their own best interest. And so, yes, the brother is right. A more modern example, affordable health care. And as soon as 45 came into office, and he wants to do away with affordable health care, he wants to do away with Obamacare, which is the same thing. And you got all of these grassroots Republicans, lower economic level Republicans that put Trump in office. Well, there are some of the people who put him in office, and they're going along with him. But when in reality, they are the very ones who would be hurt the most if affordable health care went away. The counties across America, the studies show the counties across America that will be most hard hit by taking away affordable health care are counties that Trump carried in the election. And they know this, but they will work against their own best interest because they're white and Trump is white. And so that's where we are. When you got a group of people that you have convinced to work against their own best interest and vote against their own best interest to keep this white supremacist system functioning. And that's what it's designed to do anyway, is to protect itself. And with that, I yield.
All right, thank you for that, Sister Burnell. Listening to you guys talk, you're reminding me of two things. One is the very first president. I guess this is our Trivial Pursuit moment. Who wants to be a millionaire? Who's the first sitting American president to ever be impeached?
Andrew Johnson.
Look at that. Well, I didn't see you come in. I knew you would know it. Okay, Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson is, and welcome, Brother Carlton. Andrew Johnson is what we would refer to as a poor redneck who hated everyone. And Andrew Johnson's problem with Black folk, and you got to remember that Johnson is the gentleman that once he becomes president and Frederick Douglass seeks to congratulate him, Douglass puts his hand out and Johnson looks at Douglass, gives him the side eye, what we would call the side eye today. And he says quite simply, do you think I would ever stoop so low as to shake the hand of a nigger? Now, this is your president. He hated Black folk because his family were sharecroppers. And they felt that they would have a leg up if what? Black folk were not there working, enslaved. A similar thing, and for some reason, I just watched this movie probably a week ago, Men of Honor, where Robert De Niro's character is telling Cuba Gooding Jr., he says, you have nothing in common with me, even though they came from the exact same place of being sharecropper son. And I'll finish it off with what I'm saying with this quote that is one of the most memorable quotes ever given by LBJ. And he's talking about this very thing that this conversation has sort of pivoted towards. Johnson says, I'll tell you what's at the bottom of it. If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. President Lyndon Baines Johnson. And there's so much wisdom and truth that goes there, with that right there. And with that, I'll step back and open the floor for you guys again.
Yeah, I'd like to just jump in right quick. And it's not just the theory, but it's the practice that is activated when the theory gets exploded, and you begin to see, Black people, like during the period of Reconstruction, you start to see Black people influx into elected power positions, which obviously explodes the theory of white supremacy, and it activates, a narcissistic, vengeance, so to speak. A narcissist cannot tolerate someone. They love themselves so much that they can't tolerate when you love yourself and you're not obsessed with submission, to their, so-called dominance. You talk about President Trump, so to speak, but it was the Obama phenomenon. They don't have any problem with Black people or, the inner city neighborhoods on fire, crack and delinquency. And they don't have any problem with us as long as we're hating ourselves and killing ourselves off and fitting into the theory or fitting into the narrative that white people, are the dominant culture. They're even benevolent or attempt to be what they would think is benevolence. When there's no challenges to the theory, when there's nothing to explode the theory. But when you see a Black man, run for and win or be placed, however you want to look at it, in the White House, and you see this Black family, and you see the theory, the practice, the theory exploded, they bare their fangs and they come out and I have to, put you back in your place now. You see Black Wall Street, you see any movement that arises in Black America that purports that we want our own communities. We want to be able to enjoy self-determination. We want to coalesce around ourselves. We're not interested in, bowing down to you and kowtowing to you, but we want our own the same way you enjoy your own, in your China, in your, little Italies and all of these other things that y'all have. But when we start to coalesce around the rights of self-determination and our own divinity as children of the Most High, it explodes that theory, and then there's a practice of a white backlash. So it's not just the theory, but it's the white backlash when that theory is exploded. It's the reason why they burnt down Black Wall Street, and have done other things. And since the election of President Obama back in 2008, because remember, right before President Obama was elected, they were talking about post-racial society and all of that type of stuff. But it was so-called post-racial, but y'all still had this theory going on, and y'all was on top, and there was no encroachment on your theoretical dominance. But when that was exploded, then it was the backlash. And having said that, I yield.
All right, my brother. All right. Once again, the floor is open to anyone who wants to talk about this issue of critical race theory. Sort of to bring some format to what it is we're talking about. I'd like to give a definition of what critical race theory actually is. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. This is a portion of a piece that I wrote last night, finished this morning. But critical race theory is a movement generated by civil rights scholars and activists seeking to critically examine U.S. law as it intersects with race issues and challenges mainstream approaches to racial justice. When we look at it through that lens, Derek Bell, his looming, and I'm sure Vernell remembers being at the Ohio State University and us reading books like Faces at the Bottom of the Well, The Permanence of Racism. Bell, if you've never read that book, it's actually a phenomenal book. And he has this, he explains law by using these stories. And he has one called The Space Traders that I would like to share with you guys. And you tell me what should happen in this story. Basically, a alien race comes down to Earth and they tell us that that the Earth is dying, which we all know, but they have the technology to return it to its pristine nature. Okay, to a virgin, you can drink out the water still. You don't even need filters. You could, all of these things, the air will be clean and what have you. In exchange for this, what do you think the space invaders want, the space traders want?
Black people.
They want Black people. And it creates a robust discussion within the Senate, within Congress, about should Black folk go? And you have these very interesting arguments that are coming from white folk. And one of the ones that still sticks out to me is a gentleman who says that he served in World War II or Vietnam, and he says, "I did that for my country. I didn't know if I would make it back." Okay, so Black people need to be patriotic, and they need to get themselves together and get on that spaceship, on that flying saucer, and get up out of here. Who knows what's going to occur? Okay, that's Derek Bell right there. So let's keep it going. Floor is open. Let's go, people. Floor is open. Brother Ed, you wanted to chime in? Go right ahead.
Yes. So I had a conversation with a politician who was running for board of supervisors in my district. And we talked critical race theory. Based on what I've seen and what I've read, most people who oppose critical race theory have no idea what critical race theory is. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily think that it is our job to educate white folks on what the hell critical race theory is. I'm torn between that though. Like I don't think it's our job to educate them, or do you all think that they're just plain ignorant about what this theory is? Because one person told me that critical race theory and LGBTQIA, and particularly transgender, was one and of the same. So it's this idea that they're lumping transgender under critical race theory. And I had to tell her they're completely different theories. Transgender or any type of gender doesn't fall under the umbrella, in my opinion, of critical race theory. The critical race theory focuses on the inequities that, are outputs of the system, not necessarily anything to do with transgender. So this whole, I don't know if you guys seen it in the news, but there was this whole outburst in Loudoun County schools in Virginia where there were parents getting arrested. They had to cancel the school board meeting because of the opposition to critical race theory. But I was told that was more so about transgender, but they lumped critical race theory in there. So are you guys hearing that? And I'm curious to know that the people you are having these discussions with about critical race theory, do they even know what the theory is?
One of the more bizarre tapes, I was watching CNN or MSNBC or something, and they were showing, I want to say it was Ted Cruz. It was Cruz or one of these other conservatives, and he had somehow entangled critical race theory with Marxism and said that it is a part of a larger conspiracy to overthrow the nation. And it's, it's one of those things where, and I wrote down this question that I want to send right back to you. And it is quite simply, and I'm sure Brother Carlton is going to laugh at this question. Is it possible for us to educate them when their position of ignorance and naivete is beneficial to them politically and economically? To just quite simply say, I don't understand what you're saying. And that's their escape hatch to never having to deal with structural racism and discrimination. That this is something that is ingrained. It's kind of like one of my friends got in a car accident and was hit by a Mexican driver. Now, dude gets out. I speak no English. I speak no English. And that was his escape route. That as long as I don't talk to you, there's nothing that could be done. I think that white folk are couching conveniently this facade of ignorance because it's beneficial to them. And
Absolutely.
that's
I
to
think you're
all,
right.
Ed, that's to all of you.
Absolutely.
I think you're right to a certain degree. It's in my experience, most folks don't know what the hell CRT is, and especially these conservatives that are doing it, and they just mix it up with anything. And it's more like but I do think in general, white folks do know something's going on with race. Like I forget her name. Is it Jane Elliott, that older white woman who did the study?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
The test. She said, yeah, basically,
Blue eyed.
yeah, but she also said she also asked him like, hey, would you switch places with black people? And they was like, no. so they know something's up with that. But could they articulate what's going on with race? I don't think so. But I think most of them do know something's off. No matter how old they are, they know something's off, and they know how this country treats black people. But as far as them, I guess knowing how to change things, this is what I think. I forget his name. I don't know if he's a doctor or not, but his name is John Powell. He goes about saying we shouldn't berate white folks, but maybe talk about structures and whatnot, systems of racism instead of attacking them. And he thinks black people should be more apt to educate those who are willing. In a sense, well, how do you figure out those who are willing? And it's kind of like and I agree with his point about we need it because we need people to change policy. And his point is like, you may get a few folks that most folks won't listen to you, but some people probably will. And you may get somebody who's curious enough to actually change some of their ways enough to actually vote a certain way. And that's where I think maybe we could, but I don't know. It may take time to try to figure out who are some of these white people, who are they? I know some, and they don't really ask for help a lot. They tend to just go Google shit. Mm-hmm. Then I wonder, don't want you to figure this out by yourself? Because it's a lot of things they don't know. And before you know it, you can have them doing some really crazy shit, thinking they're going to, and then, and they may need some help. I guess dotting some I's across some T's later on.
Yeah, your comment reminded me, and Brother Omar stole my thunder, of the Chris Rock moment when he was on stage and he says quite simply, white people know what's going on. He said, there ain't a single white person in his audience who would switch places with me, and I'm rich. So there is it's a convenient, ignorance, Sister Danielle, and then we'll move across the top with people who have their hands up. Sister Danielle, go right ahead.
You can go on. I don't have anything substantive to say. I was going to say that I just think this is the biggest mental flex, the gaslighting the country. That's it, and no, I am not teaching a white person what CRT is. F that, unless you enrolled in my class. But no, seriously, it's a flex. And they know good and goddamn well it's not taught in K through 12. This is college level courses, and more importantly, it's just to fuck with people, and to like what was said already before me. to gain momentum in political parties. That's what this is all about, and to maintain power and order. That's all this is. It's a protection of history, because what this is about is not shedding light on imperialism, colonialism, slavery, corporate power, all of that. It's not ignorance, it's strategic, it's strategy. And I'd be damned if I teach somebody white what this shit is. This is what they've been groomed in. They know it better than I do. So no, I'm not teaching them. And they gotta learn about it on their own. And they don't need to learn about it, they know it. So that's all I gotta say. I have nothing, again, intelligent to say, but it's a flex. It's a flex. And with Dr. Bell, I thought was so on point when he said indestructible. Like, really think about that. It's about racism. And I think this speaks to what they're trying to do with CRT is like, racism is intricate and complex because it affects every single part of our lives that we can't even see the shit, but it affects us on a day-to-day basis. It affects us in education. It affects us in healthcare and health, whatever you want to name it. It's indestructible. So I don't know what the answer is, as I always say, I'm coming here because we don't have sovereignty. We don't have really the right to define ourselves and the right to live as we want to live in a country that's built on racism and sustained on racism, as Dr. Bell said, is indestructible. And I yield.
Thank you for that. But who's it? The Staples Singers. I'll take you there. I know a place. Ain't nobody crying. Give Brother Muhammad about 5 years, and there will be a place where you can have sovereignty, and you can go there. You can see he's shaking his head up and down right now.
I pray. I pray.
It's on you, my brother.
Thank you, Doc. And definitely, you will definitely have that in reality. So these white folks, they can articulate what's going on. One of the ladies in the Virginia school board meeting I reached out to, Doc, that we're actually in conversation. I'm trying to get her on the Tuesday program. And she was one of the real boisterous ones about critical race theory and how much she loved America. And she don't want her children to be taught that police are bad and there's racism in America. So hopefully she'll still have that fire if she come on a Tuesday program with us so we can get down to it. The structure that we are living in comes out the mind of a being, and that being is white folks. So since they created this racist structure, they know exactly what it is. So we don't have the time to teach them. We got to be busy teaching our people who don't even understand racism when it's slapping them in their face day in and day out. We got to be teaching them what the truth is. And we don't have a lot of time to keep playing around and not doing this, because the longer we don't do this, the more and more entrenched they get, and the more and more they change systems to make sure that our children serve their needs. And so we got to do what's right by us, period, point blank. And, it's not about...
Brother Muhammad, I want to put a pin in what it is you're saying. And I want to sort of introduce this other thing. And it'll be self-explanatory as you guys watch it. I'm really interested in getting your reaction to this, okay? And I grab knowledge from wherever I can find it, so don't judge me.
Kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other. That's pretty much what it's going. That's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, stand up, because I only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees, no mom, no dad in the house, worked my way through college, sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? Not one white person ever came to me and say, well, son, you're never going to be able to get nowhere because you know the black people. But guess what? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff, because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't going to be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't going to let you get no, or you know you're not going to be able to do it here because you know the white man going to keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I work for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit there and tell me this lie of critical race theory? Of this the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing we're gonna say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. Y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense. That's exactly what's about to happen. Lastly, we are talking about our kids. We are talking about our children. What's so sick about me, I love the Discovery Channel. You will see that on the Discovery Channel, animals will put their lives on the line to protect their children from danger. Nobody want to get to the heart of the matter, get to the meat of the matter, get to more of the story. When it all comes down to it, the person that's going to be suffering from this, the one's going to be hurt from this, is the kids. 10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it going to be? Whose fault is it going to be? Who we going to look back on and blame for this? Because this is stuff we talking about right now. This stuff is going on right now. I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. None of them are. But if you want to implement this into the school system, I guarantee you to the day that I die, I'm going to be the very person right there debunking stuff, tearing stuff down, letting them know they can do exactly what I did and get exactly where I am by putting themselves to work and getting there. And ain't not one white person ever going to keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
Okay, Brother Muhammad. Part two. That's why I wanted to stop you so that you could, and then we're going to move on down the line.
Yes, sir, definitely. And that's a good example. That's a good example of a person who doesn't even see racism, but is right there smacking him right in his face the whole damn time. So, we don't have time to teach the cracker. We need to be teaching our own so that they can come up out of there and see the reality for what it really is, and then begin to work to build our own reality. And with that, I'll rest the mic.
All right. I believe it's Sister DC, then Sister Regina, and then Brother Mike.
So the video was just stupid. I'll just put it that way. But I told the beginning of the story, and we all know that them focusing on me was racism. I'll tell briefly how it all ended, to the degree it has ended. So the first officer that showed up was German, female. She detained me. She got written up also by her commander, because after the melee, calmed down, and I requested a supervisor, and the supervisor calmed everybody down and said, hey, she's a citizen, she has a right to stay here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody, went to their homes, and the next morning, I got a call from the commander. I was glad about that because I planned on putting in a report. So the commander questioned me, I gave him the information, and he said she will be written up. Great, that's fine. But the commander also said, we're still receiving calls, because I still come. I still come every day. I'm at the lake right now. I still come. On the weekends, I come several times because I enjoy it, and I'm not going to allow racist white folks to take away something that I enjoy. But the commander said, we still receive additional calls. So what we're going to do is, from this point on, if we receive a call about you from that neighborhood, we're going to collect the information, and instead of coming to bother you, because we know that you are a law-abiding citizen and you're just enjoying yourself, we're going to locate the person who called and place them under arrest for misdemeanor, abusing police. That's happened 3 times. These white folks, some of them want to spit at me when they roll by and see me. And then there's others who bring me cookies and lemonade, and we talk, and they have invited me for drinks and, whatever. But racism is so sick and it's so ugly still, and they do it in such a way, I'll just say Sandra Brown. What if I had not handled myself correctly and ended up in the back of a police car in a jail and ended up dead behind me wanting to sit at the lake and look at some damn ducks? It didn't turn out that way. Like I said, 3 white folks have been arrested for abuse of police, and many more may happen. I don't know, but I'm still coming to the lake. They're not taking that from me.
All right, thank you for that, Sister DC. I'd be cautious about eating them cookies or drinking that drink. You never know. Sister Regina, it's on you. Regina Al Hassan, the research pro. And I'd like for everybody to take a moment and congratulate Sister Regina, because she needed, I guess she needed them other folk to tell she's an icon. You've always been an icon to us, okay? But she is now a part of a speakers bureau. She is a quote unquote icon. Congratulations, sister.
I appreciate it. I gave a presentation I'm in the fundraising industry. And so the fundraising industry has a professional conference every year. It's the largest one on the planet. And I was a speaker, and the conference is called Icon. So that's why I made the post in jest that I'm officially an icon. But yes, I am iconic. So that's not a surprise. But no, seriously. So I just kind of want to thank you, everyone. I appreciate the love and support. But I just wanted to kind of echo the other sentiments that, people know what they're doing, and they are intentionally intermingling it with Marxism, with homosexuality, with transgender. They're intentionally mixing it up with things that don't apply because they know that will trigger people to respond in some way. But aside from that, I'm really curious because this is kind of a space, it's an interesting time where Black people really do have an opportunity to like glow up, so Black people are excelling, at least what I'm seeing, and it's definitely Black men, but there's a lot of attention right now on Black women and Black women just doing the thing. Black women are leading in the number of new businesses being created. Black women are leading in the number of jobs being created for other Black people. So I see this sort of movement where it's not just Black women, but Black young people, Black millennials. They're just opting out of the traditional go work for somebody until you're 65. They're opting out of participating in that system in some of those institutions, and they're really challenging the status quo, which is awesome. All of that is awesome. But we know historically, anytime that Black people glow up, there's backlash. So I'm really curious. My oldest daughter and I were talking about this a few days ago, like not to look for negative things, but I'm curious what the backlash is going to be next, because we've seen it historically is bombing people out of their towns and homes and all, their places of economy. It is just so many times throughout history, choose a decade and it has happened. And so I'm curious what that backlash might be next. And I'll stop there.
All right. Brother Mike X, and then Sister Vernell. We are down to our last 20 minutes. So let's kind of 2 minutes each. Let's go.
Wow.
Wow. I appreciate, the comments of the sister Regina that just preceded me, and it echoed, what I said earlier, about the practice, because it's about power at the end of the day, the power to keep the status quo alive. And as the status quo seems to be threatened by, Black people expressing themselves and the need for there to be greater control over our communities and the way that we're living, turning to ourselves, utilizing our resources better so that we can carve out communities of our own, that's when there's the reaction. As long as we are accepting the status quo, then the status quo itself takes care of everything else for the most part. White skin privilege, even when you don't have, rank and file white people that have real vested interest, that they're being enriched from, they still have, like you said at the beginning, that white skin privilege. But then when you see Black people gaining, more love and more self-respect and striving to come up out of, social, political, economic dependency, on the system and on white people and other peoples, then there's a backlash, but we can't be afraid of incurring that backlash. One of the things that when y'all were talking earlier about Felicia Rashad and the whole Bill Cosby thing, and there was some comments, I don't remember who made the comments, but she better be careful, and maybe she shouldn't talk up like that. That's the language of continued dependency, on the system. And we shouldn't be educating our people, and we shouldn't be striving to get in positions that come at the expense of us being able to say what we need to say and do what we need to do, So the last thing I'll say is, we talk about, should we educate white people or could we educate white people? My thing is, can we educate Black people? I've, as a middle-aged gentleman, I've gone from a period in the 90s where there was an explosion of Black love and consciousness in the 90s. And you had people reading again, and becoming, and not just because they were in school, not just because I'm trying to get a degree so I could get employed by them, but they were reading because they wanted to know. They were reading because they wanted to accept a stronger self-dignity, and then to see that dissipate and fade away, it's very hurtful, and we got to get back to that point where we seek to know, we seek to be empowered as individuals and to play a crucial role in bringing together the unity that we need to display. And there's more that I wanted to say, but I probably went over the 2 minutes that you asked of us, so I'm gonna yield.
All right, brother, thank you. Thank you. Sister Vernell, you're up next, and then Brother Ed wants to clarify what he meant by educate white folk.
Yeah, let me unmute myself. I think that we have to ask the question is, why don't they, we were like, why don't they want critical race theory taught? Why don't they want to talk about that slave period, where in textbooks they've changed the term slave to indentured servants or immigrant workers, that's what they've called enslaved people in some textbooks now. And why is that? And who don't they want to learn about that? It's not us. We know about racism. We know about that. So who don't they want to learn about that? We already know. It's white folk. That's who they don't want to learn about. I believe it is my theory is that you have the ruling class of white people the upper 5% that own the property and own the wealth, that are the politicians, that are making the rules, and then you have the masses of white people. And I really believe that the masses of white people, they don't think that there's anything wrong with this country. They genuinely believe that nothing is wrong, with this country, that racism doesn't exist, and that they're not white supremacists because their head is not skinned, they don't have tattoos on their faces, or they don't wear white hoods. They think that they're not white supremacists, that they're not taking advantage of white privilege, that they're not participating in the oppression of other people because they don't look like this stereotypical image of a white supremacist. And if the politicians and the people that want to keep this white privilege, functioning, and keep this white supremacist system functioning, if they can keep those people ignorant, the voters keep them ignorant, then they can continue to have this privilege. They can continue to keep a whole culture of people subjugated to a lower socioeconomic class. And so that's who I think they don't want to learn about it. We know about white privilege. We know about white supremacy. We know about racism. Our parents, our grandparents, we know. They don't want them to know.
Sister Burnell, Sister Burnell, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Are you sure that our people, especially our kids who have not had, many of them have never even had a Black teacher in their K through 12 experience, do you think that they know about racism in a way that they're able to understand it, articulate it, and formulate a plan, an executable plan to uplift our people?
Thank you.
I'll tell you.
Thank you for making that. That is a generational distinction. So thank you for bringing that up. When I say we, I'm talking like my generation and older, right? So thank you for making that generational distinction. And the answer is no, they don't. And unless they've got a responsible Black adult in their life that has intentionally educated them, But yeah, so so it behooves the white supremacist system, the politicians, the Republicans, to keep that group of people ignorant as well. But I really think they're trying to keep other white folk who feel that they are well-meaning and good-natured white people who would not want to be part of a system that oppresses people. If they can keep them ignorant, thinking that nothing is wrong and that Black people are just complaining and playing the race card, then they can keep this system functioning as it has been for generations, centuries. That's who they don't want to know about.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Thank you for that, Sister Burnell. Brother Ed, go.
So yes, thank you for that as well, because I was going to hint to that. So the idea is not that we intentionally go out and seek to educate white folks. What I'm talking about is if there is a school board, if there's an administrative meeting, if there's a political meeting in your local neighborhood and critical race theory is going to be discussed at this meeting, do you go or do you stay home? Because not going, we can see what happens when we don't go. Some Black guy gets up and start spewing off some idiotic stuff that fuels white people into thinking that they were right all along. So let's say if somebody else was there, if somebody else was in the room, somebody else could get up and speak to everything that brother said and show them folks that no, racism still exists. This is how the system is working, giving them examples and making some of the folks in there sit back and be like, oh, well, I didn't look at it that way. I didn't think about it that way. He's absolutely correct. So when I talk about educating white folks, that's what I'm talking about, because it's going to be talked about. Your local politicians are going to talk about it. Do we stay home because we don't want to educate folks, or do we go?
Thank you for
I'm no expert in CRT, but I think if you're a scholar with the expertise, I mean, it's a time to shine. You can even make some money from it. I mean, but what a lot of these free places are doing, when they do get rebuttals, they'll change the format of the meetings. But someone was mentioning the other day, well, sometimes the point is just to get it on a record. Like, if you say something there, it becomes a part of public record, a part of the recording of the minutes. And that's why you see all these councils, they change their minutes where you can't rebut these things. And so they don't want it even on the record, so to speak. So, I mean, it may take that. People may not like it, but I mean, they're intentionally doing this to muddy the waters. But I think some of it may fail because people are curious enough to even Google it. Some of it comes up in search features. They've been flooding YouTube for over a decade, trying to muddy the waters with this stuff already. But it's still coming up. And I think they've changed their algorithm according to some backlash from some young Black social media savvy folks to show more, I guess, parity with their videos and whatnot. But the social media platforms, they're trying to be just with it, but you got to prod them. So I don't know. I mean, if you're a scholar in this field, it may take that. I mean, people don't like it, but it may happen. It may have to happen.
Right, and I like what you said. It becomes a matter of record. So now there's no hiding behind, well, I didn't know. I didn't think that that's what it was. I didn't think that that's what it was about. You got all your local politicians in one room, and you have just educated everybody in the room on this particular topic that is matter of record. So it's not simply, I don't want to educate white folks. It's putting things on a record. It's also educating the Black folks who go there with the misconception of critical race theory too. And they get up and talk, because I'm sure white people love that black dude that got up and said what he said. But if you were to get up and say what we're saying on this platform, I guarantee you wouldn't see that on CNN, Fox, and all these other media outlets.
Yeah, but my thing is that are they going to be receptive to anything that is said that is contrary to what they already believe in that setting, where there's so many of them involved? Will they even hear you? Because in many ways, I think they're inside of a mobile echo chamber where they're not really going to hear anything that's said. I mean, you could have Jesus Christ come down and explain it to them. If it doesn't benefit their worldview, they're not going to go with it.
Right. So I was gonna say that too. You got to realize too is in addition, it's being reinforced and everything. It's being reinforced on the radio they listen to, on the television they watch. Hell, even at their church, all these different. You hear the same thing over and over and over again. Well, hell yeah, you believe it too, even if you know it's not true. So I think that's a major part of it, is that, and it's your neighbors year round. So like you're seeing, we have this basically what's called this assortative settling, where basically every white folks are going to their own corner and having their own echo chamber. We don't have a quote unquote central power for truth like we did maybe 50, 60 years ago, where if Cronkite said it, you believed it more than everybody believed it across the board. Mm-hmm. Now that's not the case anymore. I mean, if you don't like what they say on ABC, turn on Fox News and let Sean Hannity just pump your head up with bullshit all night. So there's really no way to break through and cut through that echo chamber at all.
I want to chime in real quick. We'll go straight to Sister Vernell. So here we go.
Over critical race theory. It's everywhere, and was even used as a GOP call to arms at a conservative Christian conference last week.
The old Marxism used economics to gain control. The new Marxism uses identity politics. And the result is something that looks nothing like America. There's no reason to believe that this new Marxism will result in anything but what the old Marxism resulted in.
Critical race theory is racism, pure and simple. And it should be rejected by every American of every race.
And let me tell you right now, critical race theory is bigoted, it is a lie, and it is every bit as racist as the Klansmen in white sheets.
Okay, but here's the thing. None of this is random. This is the result of a highly manufactured strategy created by seasoned political operatives looking for the perfect wedge issue to take back power. Something to combat the energy of the multiracial coalition that took Georgia, and something to replace Blue Lives Matter, since January 6th exposed that slogan.
And I just feel compelled for you guys to see the Queen Mother
as a sham.
Theory.
Conservatives in Congress took note. It has the magic word in it, race. Joining me now is Kimberly Crenshaw, co-founder and executive director of the African American Policy Forum, and the legal scholar who coined the term critical race theory. So it is your fault, madame. I tripped over the curb this morning and I went, critical race theory? Damn you! You tripped me on the car. You did it. It does everything bad. I mean, and the cicada.
Okay, we'll go right back to our discussion. Go right ahead. I think Vernell was up next. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So everything that who's that? Joy Reid. Everything that she said is absolutely correct. They don't even know what they mean by when they say critical race theory. What they don't want, you gave the critical race theory. You gave the definition. It's about U.S. laws and the way that race and racism has impacted laws and policies. But most people aren't talking about laws and policies at that level. They're not. What they're really saying is that we don't want anything about America's racism being taught. And that's what it is. We don't want to focus on it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want people to know and understand the racist nature of this country. I just want to say something to Ed about educating white folk. I am so not interested in teaching white folks, but I will help white folks learn. I will, go read this book and come back and talk to me. And I think that's fair. And I would definitely do that. But in terms of this echo chamber, and would they listen, and would white folks listen? They may not listen to me. They'll listen to another white person before they listen to me. And I think that's what it takes. I think white folks got to talk to white folks about this type of thing. We didn't create this. We didn't create it, and we're not going to destroy it by ourselves.
Thank you for the profound thought, Sister Vernell. It puts me in the mind of Malcolm when he talks about that one regret, when he had the white girl who came up and asked him, was there anything that he could do? And he said nothing. And he says, well, later he realized that they're the only ones that can police their own people. We obviously can't do it. Okay, Brother Maurice, go right ahead.
All right, thanks, Doc. And Brother Ed, the way I look at it, right, going to those meetings and voicing your opinion is definitely is a good thing to do. But really, we got to look at power and understand power, right? So do you have enough of the people in that community or in that city where that school board is that you can change those people that's sitting up there, right? If you can't replace none of them, if you don't have those numbers, then you're fighting a losing battle, right? And so for me, we've moved all the way to Mississippi so that we can get in a situation where we can control the numbers. Now, if you're in like Baltimore or Philadelphia or something like that, then you're in this position where you can control numbers, you can control policy, you can make law, you can do these things. America is not about whether or not you have the right moral argument. That's not what America is about. They don't care about a moral argument. We have the most righteous moral argument than anybody on the planet. But it has gotten us nowhere, right? So they have a problem with the truth being taught as it should be taught. They have a problem with that because they understand demographics. They know that their numbers are drowning, right? And America is not going to be a majority white country any longer. It's not going to be that. So there will be a power shift. And somebody is going to have to carry that burden of what the people did before them. So like when Thomas Jefferson said, I pray for my country, because God's justice will not sleep forever. Well, that day is starting to come here now, and those crackers, they understand what they did and what they've been doing. And so the fear is, you're going to look at my children and say that my children is the enemy, when that is something that they've earned. That's something that they've earned, right? Now, when we don't just want people to hear our voice and get it on the record, we don't just want that. We want change. That means we got to put ourselves in those positions to bring about what we want, regardless to what anybody else says. I don't care if it's the white man, I don't care if it's the Asian man, to hell with all of them. This is what we want, and so we're bringing it forward. This is what's going to be in school because we said so. That's the position that we have to attack each and every issue that concerns Black life. What is best for us first? And then that's the way it has to be, because it's been what's best for everybody else all this other time. And I rest my mind.
All right, gang, we are up against our time limit. Brother Ed, you are our guest of honor, since this is your first time joining us, and we pray that it will not be your last time. Hopefully you had a good time with us. So we're going to bestow you the honor of having the last comment. Is there anything you would like to say about this issue, Black life in general? It's anything you want to say, my brother.
Okay, great. Yes, I definitely appreciate the dialogue. I definitely like hearing the different opinions about this particular topic or about any topic. So this definitely will not be my last time attending. So I just thank everyone for coming on and sharing their voice. I think this is at least one way that we can get our message out and just move forward as a unified race of people. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. And thank you for your support of Manhood, Race, and Culture. The brother shared he's been reading Manhood, Race, and Culture for like 5 years now. I didn't think anybody read anymore. So drop writers a note every once in a while. It will be the wind beneath our wings, believe it or not, because writing is a very solitary, somewhat lonely endeavor. Brother Ed, please strap on your seatbelt, because we're getting ready to get up out of here. And as I told you, we stay overtime, so you're welcome to remain with us. The conversation will continue, but this is how we at Manhood, Race, Culture Interactive like to end our show. So, Brother Maurice.
Sure, thank you, Doc. And as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Thank you, family. Peace and blessings. Shalom.